Okay, George Durkee back, Geography 66, creating web maps with ArcGIS Online. This will be week 2, lesson 10, where we're using Survey123 to collect data in the field. And in this lesson, I want to go back slightly and show you how to use custom symbols. We'll upload symbols for customized symbols for our web map, and then we'll create an app from the web map we made. So let's start with our table of contents in your folder for the survey. And we're going to open the web map again. And we'll come back to creating a web app, but for the moment, let's open our map in the new viewer. And a couple of things here. In the last video, I unfortunately skipped from one cut to another without clearly showing how you can edit an existing symbol. So let's go down here to edit. And if you go to the select tool here and go over to any of the symbols you've drawn, you can see I've added several more. You get into the record for that symbol. And you can either delete it or you can update it after changing the record. And incidentally, for this particular symbol, I was just putting in symbols for our next exercise here. So what I want to do here is show you guys how to create a unique symbol for each of our animals, critters that we report. So you'll notice right now we have one symbol, the survey point, for each animal. So we report a skunk, bear, or other, or a raccoon, and they all show the same symbol. What we can do is show a separate symbol for each, and we can also, as I said in the last video, upload a specific symbol representing that animal. Now, of course, you don't have to do that either. You can just accept the defaults that Arc Online assigns when you create from a field. But what you do here is we go to Choose Attributes and we go to Field, and then we assign the field that we want the symbols to represent. So species select, if you remember, that had the drop down with specific symbols, and then we add. And notice how on the lower left here, it has bear, other, raccoon, and skunk. And that's useful. It might be all you want without getting too fancy here. But we can also change the style. So we go under Pick a Style and Style Options. And there are our symbols that were chosen by Arc Online or assigned by Arc Online. We can change each one of those. So for bear, you click on the symbol, and what you get is what we did earlier. You have the basic point, and we can either change the symbol set that's chosen from, or we can upload one. And I'll show you how to upload one here. So click on the current symbol, and then notice that comes out of basic shapes. And if you remember, we had a whole bunch of different symbol sets. But what we want to do is upload a symbol. And so we go to Symbols, and we can drag and drop from our library, which you guys probably don't have, or we go online and search for something. So I'm going to go online here and search for a bear icon in PNG. It was one of several extensions and image types, but PNG is often a good one for icons. So let's see what we end up with. And so we end up with a whole bunch of possibilities here. Now, The problem is that a lot of these folks charge or want you to sign up. So you have to hunt around to find an absolutely free one without any strings attached. So let's view all and see what we end up with here. Free animal icons. Let's try it. And let's just try downloading it as a PNG and see if oh, it says free download. So sure, and attribution required. But it does download. And so I've already downloaded one bear. So let's give this a number. This will be bear number 2. And I've saved it to a folder. And so in my other screen here, I have that folder open to bear2 PNG, and you just drag it in here. And there you are. It automatically assigns it because that's the symbol we're on. And so you'll notice I've also done this with skunk. So let's go down to skunk and change that. Basic shapes, but we go to our downloaded symbols. Let's put in a skunk. And there you go. I think you get the idea there. So notice how oh, they're kind of small. Sorry about that. Let's make them a little bigger. So back to style options. Let's go to the bear and let's up the size a bit. Oh, and up all of the sizes. Okay. Okay. There we are. Let's go with that then. And then done. And there we are. And you can do something with the other two, have other as a neutral animal of some sort, maybe, or you can just leave them as colors for the assignment. And then, of course, we save. And incidentally, when the little blue dot here is showing, it means you've made changes that have to be saved. Okay, now let's make an app from this map. So, as you remember, there's several ways of creating your web app from your web map. So here we are in your folder, the survey folder that your map is in, as well as the feature layers. One way, of course, is from your web map itself, you can just go down here to create app. And the advantage of that is it automatically uses this map that you've created for your web app. And another option, though, is to open up your feature layer information in the contents page. And you can do it from there as well. And I'll just demo that here. And so here we are on our contents page, and you can create a web map from here. And we're going to use a different app builder. You remember the first time we used instant apps. And so I'm just going to demo a different app builder, and we'll use the web app builder app. And let's give it a name, web app builder, just to show what we're creating it with, and that'll be test Survey123, and it'll go in the same folder. And so that opens the app in the format that Web App Builder uses. And it's essentially the same as instant apps. It's just the tools are arranged differently. And so you'll notice you've got the header here, theme, map, widget, and attributes. And we'll go through each of those. And you also notice in the map itself, I've added some more wildlife observations, and it has carried over the symbols that the customized symbols that we added earlier. So first is the theme. So it opened on what's called the foldable theme here, but you can go through and try various types here and see what you like. I'm going to stick with foldable theme. And then you can also change the style, so you can change the color to a blue, and change the layout, and that's the location of the toolbars here. But I'm going to stick with the defaults that were assigned. And next, of course, is the map. And since we opened it from the map feature layer when we said create app, it carries through with that map. But were you to just create an app and you have a large number of web apps, or someone else within the college has one that you want to use, and they've made it available to the organization, you can just open a create app and then use whatever map you want. And then importantly, you want to pay attention to use current map view. So that'll be the map view that you create here, or use the web maps default extent. And that's the one you set earlier when we set the extent for the map. And the next choice is customizing the visible scale. So that adds a limit to the zoom levels that you want the map to go to. And there's occasionally reasons to limit the scales, but we don't need to do that. And then you have set refresh interval. So for instance, if you're using a server-based feature layer, and it might change. So for instance, your satellite data changes every 6 hours or so. So you want the map to check in with the server occasionally and see if anything's been updated. Or if you're using data from anyone within our organization and they're updating the data, then again, the web map will automatically check to see if that layer has been updated. The default is honor each layer's interval. So for instance, most of the server layers come with an automatic uh, refresh interval, and so you can just stick with that. And next are the tools, the widgets we'll be using to manipulate our map and add further information. So you'll notice under theme, we've set it up such that our widgets are over here. We can add in 5 of them. And then also over here, we have a couple of more widgets we can add in onto the top header bar. So to add a widget, you just click on the 1 here, and that'll add it into the 1 position. And I think the first one, let's add edit, because we're using a survey form and we want to be able to add information to it. So that will be an edit. And then OK. And that'll bring up some variables we can set. So if we had anything other than a point, for instance, you'd check reshape. So if you had a polygon, you'd allow a polygon reshape tool, or to cut it, or to merge it with another shape. But we just want to enable undo or redo. And you can also change the title. So for instance, we'd probably want a little more information here and say add wildlife information, because that's the only editable feature we've added to this map. Were there others, then it would just say edit all layers. And then don't apply edits to the attributes until checking the save button. So let's do that. And then a few other variables you can add, and you can have custom layer settings. So for instance, you could not make it possible for people to delete their edit or their addition or update the geometry. And semi-importantly, you can also show or hide the various fields. So if there's some of the fields you don't want shown, you can uncheck them. And also decide whether they can be displayed and or edited. So all the system fields are by default not shown. So the object ID, which is automatically added within the system, or the creation date, even though we have a field of creation date, but the system adds another one. So those are not visible, but you might, for some reason, want to make them visible, but we'll just accept the defaults here. And then OK. And so notice that's gone into the first position here. And then let's add a second one. So let's add some base maps. And OK. And that goes to which base maps we want to add. And so let's just add, well, let's narrow that down a little bit. And this just imports a few. And so let's just do the National Geographic and image with labels. And so the labels on imagery are place names and things like that versus just imagery without place names. And we'll go OK. So that just gives them easy 2 base maps people can work with. OK. And so you guys already know some of the widgets and how to add them. So you can just continue through if you want to add more. And let's add a couple to the upper right here on the header bar. And let's add a bookmark to that. And OK. And you can set it up as to how the bookmarks show. Let's accept the defaults. Let's add one more here. Let's add an about, what the map is all about and how to use it. And then that brings us to an editor window. And let's give it a title, how to use this app. And you can get rid of the default symbol here. And then you'd give step-by-step and etc. So how to use it, what it's for, and you can even add in symbols here. It allows you to put in images of some of the widgets, which help it make it easier to find. And we'll go OK. And so notice that's added over here on the top bar. And finally, and once again, I'm just adding a few here as examples. You can add a splash screen. So that's what comes up first when the app is opened. And notice these are grayed out. So those, to activate them, you go to the little eye symbol here and click on that, and that brings it up. And then you can edit it. And you can edit both the icon if you have something better, and instead of splash, we'll have it say welcome. We'll put a little exclamation point, and then we'll get rid of the default symbol there. And we'll put in something like observations for Tuolumne County, California. And then you can just add more information about how it's used and what it's for. And then you can work with the appearance, give it a different size, transparency, so the map in the background is visible. Add a button color. We'll just, again, stick with the defaults. And confirmation text color. And we'll see that in just a second here. But again, we'll stick with the defaults. And then options. This is where you can require a confirmation to continue, and you can also disable the splash screen. So if a person comes back, they don't see that same splash screen over and over if they're using the app a number of times. Or you can require confirmation to continue. And that's especially important in emergency operations type maps where you want to clearly define the limits and uses of the data you're putting out there. Because in my case, I'll often make a map for friends or colleagues, and I'll add a lot more stuff that might take an advanced amount of knowledge. Uh, but most of my friends or colleagues or whatever know the limits of those data. But if you're putting something up there, so for instance, if you're adding the satellite hotspot imagery, a lot of people don't know the limits of that data, that it's renewed every 6 or 12 hours. So if they see it there, they might think that's where the fire is, but in fact, it might have been there 12 hours ago. So you want to make that clear, uh, and or you'd want to give a link within the splash screen to where the official information is being compiled and released. We won't do that, so just OK. And you can see that comes out with a blue background and something that you can work with if you don't like that. And so you can do other things here. So for instance, the scale bar, I notice when you hover over it, it lights up red in the lower left for the scale bar. So you can edit that. Right now it's in miles, but you can put in uh, metric, or you can put in both metric and English measurements. We'll stick with English. And let's save that. I think we're at the point now where you guys pretty much know how to create an app. And if you want to use instant apps, if you find that friendlier or easier to use, go ahead and do that. And the nice thing about this is you can preview pretty quickly. And so let's do that. And it also gives you a whole bunch of different phone sizes and tablet sizes, so you can see how it'll look on different devices. And that looks pretty good. You might want to check it out on phones, but for our purposes, we're going to stick with a desktop version. Arc Online has done a pretty good job of scaling the design of a map to different size devices. And where they get crowded, you'll get an arrow indicating that there's more widgets or tools there. So far so good. Let's go back to configure. And finally, we can change the attributes. We can change the title. So let's change the title to wildlife observations for Tuolumne County, California, and we'll put in Columbia College, Sonora, California. Now, obviously, that can be anything you want, and you can change the font size and colors and so on and so forth. You can even add an icon. So, for instance, if this were for the college, we could add the college's official icon here, or if you're working for an agency, you can put in Forest Service or BLM or whoever. And so then you've got, you can add a link. So for instance, you can even add a link in the title bar here. So you might use that in an emergency ops map, for instance, to go to the official source or Facebook or something like that. And then the app state, which keeps the extent and layers visible while you leave the app. And then extra data source, you can add something new in there if you want some other data to show from Arc Online or from Living Atlas. And finally, subscriber content access. With Esri, we have access to a lot of proprietary content that's only available with a user license. But when you put that into a map and then allow the public to access it versus it just being available to our organization, the public wouldn't be able to see that content without uh, clicking on this and changing the setting. So you'd add the URL here, and the difference is that when anybody uses or looks at that data, it comes out of our credits for that are assigned to the college. Now, the good news is the college gets a lot of credit. So if you're just fiddling around and trying new feature layers, that'll be fine. If you release something to the public and it's going to be an extremely popular map with thousands of viewers, then you'd want to obviously check with the college admin or the GIS department and make sure that we've got the credits A, and then B, that it's a college sanctioned web map. And also the way to test that out, and it's a good way of testing out anything you do with a map, is to get the share URL. And I'm just noticing I didn't add one. Let's do that in a moment. And put it into a private browser because you're not signed into the private browser. So that'll immediately tell you if the map is truly public and if there's something that's not public, either one of the feature layers has not been changed to public access, or you're using a proprietary feature layer that's only available within S3 subscriber content, then you'll get challenged for a password and login. And so you'll know that one of your feature layers is not public, and you'll have to change that. And as I said, we need to add a share widget here. So let's go down. There's the share widget there, and we'll add it. And you've seen this before where you can choose how to share it and with whom. And then also you can have it use the organization's URL, but we don't need to do that. So let's go OK. And let's save. And here you can also save as if you wanted to. And let's preview. And that looks pretty good. There's also an argument to be made that the tool sets, the widget sets, should each have, in a sense, a grouping. That one should be informational, bookmarks, and legend, and so on, and the other should be action tools. So, for instance, measuring and I suppose even changing the base map, but editing certainly. But if you had other measurement tools or anything that you could act on the map, they ought to be there. But again, I'm just trying to do it fairly quickly here, and you guys have already done an app, so whatever you guys design is fine by me. And finally, we can launch what it's actually going to look like. And OK, and we'll go to the edit, which is the point of all this, and we choose the new feature. And then we go over and we click on the map, and our form comes up. And we'll just type random stuff here. And finally, we'll give it a drop down. We'll write in bear. I like bears. And under the drop down, we'll choose bear. And close out. And it added a little bear there. So there you have it. That's basically how to set up an app that will allow users to uh, put in wildlife observations or whatever you had your form fill out. Now, finally, one last thing. I know promises, promises, but we can look at how that information is compiled and how you can access it. So let's open up results. I'm right clicking and opening in a new tab. And then you can go to data and you can see all of the records that have been added. And notice uh, time on that is, oh, that's date of observation. So you can see that's the one we just added, and it shows up automatically in the records and the results feature layer. Let's go back. And yet another side note here, if you want to keep a running map of uh, all the results as they come in, or create a map of the results. So for instance, you could link to the results from your app so that people can see what else has been reported. And so you just go through the same steps, but you'd use results as your base web map and then link to that or create an app, either one. Notice that that's hosted and it's a view layer, so it can't be edited. Okay, so that's the end of the week 2 videos, and look forward to your guys' apps. Thanks.